Hey guys, Michelle from Michelle's Craft Corner here, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these adorable mermaid porthole cards using the designer series paper from the Myths and Magic suite. Let's get started. So here's a close-up of the card we're going to be making today. You can see there's a lot of variation depending on just what of the designer series paper you decide to go with. I just love this wood grain paper. It's so gorgeous. And which of the gorgeous little mermaids you decide to choose. Excuse me. Alright, so first off, we're going to need for this project, of course, the wonderful Wood Textures designer series paper. I love this stuff. Can't get enough of it. It is such a gorgeous 6x6 pack. It's got so many different wood tones and textures in this pack. You can really do a lot with it. So something for everybody. So love, love, love that set. We're also going to be using the Myths and Magic designer series paper set. Now this is from the Occasions catalog, so it's not going to be around for too much longer, but it's got these gorgeous mermaids in it. A little bit of glitz on their tails. So this is a sheet we're specifically using, but if you don't have your hands on this paper, you could also do this same card using the stamp set as well, the Magical Day and the Mermaid in that. Or also there's another mermaid in the annual catalog, the, oh, I'm blanking on her name. What is her name? I think it's the Magical Mermaid, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, so that would work as well, or any other nautical themed stamp set for the porthole. Alright, so besides our paper here, we're also going to be using a section of the silver foil sheets for that edge of that porthole. Our card base today is with the lovely crumb cake, but if you don't have crumb cake, you could also do this with Sahara sand as well. We're going to be using a small sheet of the window sheets. Now, this is a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 square, so very, very small sheet. You don't have to do the window sheet, but I think it does kind of add to the under the water effect. All right, we're also going to be using, oh, okay, that's that, some glossy white cardstock, which I forgot to print a post-it note of, but just a small square of that for the background that she is on. If you don't have the glossy white or don't want to do the sponge technique that I'll show you, you could just do a square of Marina Mist or any of our other lovely blues. Okay. The ink colors that we're sponging today are the wonderful Pool Party and Bermuda Bay. And those, of course, are with the Stampin' Sponges. And to cut out our circles, we're going to be using the layering circle framelits, the 2 circles that are actually missing from this sheet, which I'll show you in a second. For gluing, I highly recommend using the silicone craft sheet for this, just because the pieces are so small. And the ribbon, this gorgeous burlap ribbon, I absolutely love. This stuff is awesome. So we're definitely going to be using some of that today. Glue of choice, the multi-purpose liquid glue, and of course some dimensionals, and a standard hole punch. Alright, I think we got everything, so let's get to creating. Alright. So we're going to start off with our crumb cake cardstock. Let's go ahead and just fold that in half. So ready to go with that card base. I'm going to stick that off to the side. Okay. All right, so for our circle framelits, let's go ahead and do that piece first. So out of my silver foil paper, where is it here? Okay, out of my silver foil paper, I cut a square that is 3.5 by 3.5. I had a post-it note, I don't see it. Anyway, 3.5 by 3.5, and I used the larger and the second largest in the plain circle set. And what I really recommend doing, and you don't have to do it this way, is I like to run both the circles together. It's a little faster. So what I did is I lined the smaller one and the larger one, and to kind of keep it from slipping, because even though I love using the magnetic plate with something so minute, it's very easy for it to still slip. So I always like to put a little piece of washi tape on there, just because if it slides, you don't want it to be kind of a wonky circle. But just to show you guys real quick, now I pre-cut this for time, but my sandwich for this would be the magnetic platform, one of the plates, my paper, and then dies, and then the other plate on top, and just run through the Big Shot, right? If you don't have the magnetic platform, you can also use the standard platform that does come with the Big Shot. Then the other thing I'm going to go ahead and do, oh, there's my note. I know I wrote it somewhere. All right, so the other thing I'm going to go ahead and do is cut out the circle out of my wood grain paper. Here it is. Okay. So I went ahead and cut that out as well using the smaller of these two. So we're going to go ahead and pull this apart. Just like that. You can see we have this fun little ring, which is going to get glued just right around that outside. So with that circle, we have just a very nice guide to follow. And then we also have this nice silver, which we're going to use the scrap here in a second as well. Extra circle, save for another project. So stick that off to the side. Okay. So we've got that. Now let's go ahead, and we're just going to go ahead and knock out the porthole part of this real quick. So definitely using my silicone craft sheet. Anytime you're doing fine gluing that tends to get everywhere, I definitely recommend using this guy. So we're going to use the fine tip of our multi-purpose liquid glue and just go ahead and add that circle. So you don't need a heavy stream here, just a little light all around the edge. We're going to stick that around the edge of our circle here. You can see I already got a little on the mat. That's what's good about this. It dries and you just scratch it right off. Okay, so now we've got that. And I'm going to go ahead and also add my window sheet piece. Now the window sheet I cut at 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 because you don't need a huge piece because, post-it note off, it's just going to be on that back side. Let me flip it, see if you can see that in the camera. There we go. So you just need enough to kind of hit the edges there. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and stick some glue on that. Tear and tape also works really well with this, and I would also recommend just kind of making sure it's not got any dust on it there real quick. Okay. All right, I'm going to flip that over, give that a second to dry. Now while that's drying, let's go ahead and punch out our little circles. Now if you'll see on here, we've got these little circles in the silver foil all the way around. To me, this really kind of adds to the porthole effect. And what's nice about this is you don't need very much to do those. So we're just going to use the scrap that we have, or if you have any other scrap of the silver, you can use that as well. And we're just going to punch a couple of those circles out. Dump that out. Oh, I should empty that first. There we go, there's one. Okay. Okay. Okay, so you see it's pretty quick. Now for laying down those little nails around the corner, I recommend kind of going with the directions of a compass. So we're going to start with the north spot, do just a tiny little dot of glue, and the south. We're just going to add those tiny little circles right there on that. If a little glue comes out, it's okay, it will dry clear. Okay, so we've got north and south. We're going to do west and east. Hopefully that's showing up okay in the camera. But you'll see this is pretty quick. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and split the difference and do one between each of those. It's also a lot easier to line them up. Oh, I need one more. To line them up when you split it that way. Come on. Got it nice and even. All right. We'll add our last two little porthole dots. Okay. There we go. So now we've got our basic porthole. Now I'm going to just stick this off to the side to give it a second to dry. And we're going to work on our background with our mermaid. Now for this, I sponge with the Pool Party, and let me move those off the side. The Pool Party and the Bermuda Bay. I just really love these colors together. Of course, if you have some other favorites, you could definitely do those as well. So I'm going to take my piece of glossy cardstock, there it is, okay, glossy cardstock, and this is cut at 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, so not a very big piece, but you do want it big enough to where you'll be able to see it. And then I've got my two little sponge wedges here, and so I'm just going to start with my Pool Party and ink it up really good. You can kind of do the dab technique, you can kind of swish it if you want, but I really like kind of doing the lighter color first to kind of give it a good background. You can see that. Go. And that shine from that glossy cardstock I think also helps sell the water look. Let me stick that one off the side. So I'm going to do a little Bermuda Bay. And not as heavy with the Bermuda Bay, just kind of going a little light on that. Just like that. Kind of gives it a watery texture. So you guys can see that closer. So a little shine, a little fun water pattern. So really quick and easy to do that background texture. That up off to the side. Sponges away. Alright, so now the next thing is to decide which of these gorgeous mermaids you would prefer to have on your card. Now there's a lot of really good options with this set. As I said, absolutely love, love, love this paper. It's so great. And one of the things that really, you know, makes me like it even more is that I've got a girlfriend that just about fits all of these mermaids. So it's really nice when you can kind of see yourself in the product, essentially. So here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and take my paper snips and fussy cut one of these lovely mermaids out. We'll go with this one right here, the redhead. Reminds me of my girlfriend Jana. There we go. You have, you know, sadly the dies that coordinate with the stamp set don't really match this paper because the mermaids are just in all kinds of different positions, but cutting them out doesn't take very long. there we have our basic mermaid. Good to go. Now also in this set are some adorable little tiny seahorses. I don't know if you guys can see that in the camera. They're kind of stuck throughout the paper. There's also some little bubbles, some little seaweed. There we go. So there's 2 of those. So I really liked the look of having, you know, the mermaid and then 2 of her little friends. So we're just going to cut out 2 of those seahorses really quick. There's the other. Hopefully you guys didn't mind my speed cutting. I intended to have pre-cut those and forgot. Alright, so we have our mermaid. We're going to go ahead and grab our drying little porthole real quick. Now, I would definitely recommend using this as a guide when you're trying to figure out where you want to place her, because the square is bigger than your circle. So you don't want her all the way off to the side and then you're not going to see her. So I definitely recommend kind of aiming her towards the center, but to one side of the center, if that makes sense. And of course, when you glue this down, you can move it as you need to, but just kind of use that as a handy reference. So we're going to go ahead and glue her down, just straight down. Pretty easy. You guys can see this card comes together super fast. Alright, so add our mermaid here. And then our 2 little seahorse friends. Same thing with them, just be sure you don't have them over too far, otherwise you won't see them. There you go. Alright, and we're going to do a little test with our window there. Everybody's in frame. Wonderful. Alright, so this is all good and dry. So now we're just going to glue them together. Just line it up and stick it straight down. Oh. And if you don't like it, you can kind of wiggle it a little bit. Kind of cut off my seahorse there. There we go. Okay, so now we have our basic mermaid. Now we're going to go ahead and grab that wonderful burlap ribbon next and our paper snips. And go ahead and cut a section. Now this is only 4 inches across, so you don't really need much more than 4 inches. So maybe about 4, and maybe about 5 or so inches, or kind of just eyeball it. You want enough to just tuck those ends underneath. Just like that. So we've got a strip for the bottom and a strip for the top. Now, if you don't mind it, you know, being a little loose on your card, you don't have to put adhesive behind it, but if having it a little loose is going to bother you and you definitely don't want it wiggling at all, then I recommend grabbing some of the glue dots, because little mini glue dots work great with this burlap ribbon. And you only need just a tiny little dot, so, oh, it's on the wrong finger. There we go. Tiny little dot in the center, and that just kind of keeps it down. Go. Can't really see it at all. Pretty quick and easy. Now watch which finger you get stuck to. There we go. Just like that. If you want, you could also use the glue dots to adhere it to the back. I'm going to flip it over. Or you can do what I tend to always do with ribbon and just tape it. Either way works. So, just add that. Tape it down. Just be careful when you're folding those edges that it's not too taut on the other side, because you don't want your card to bow. So don't pull it super tight. My other tip with that. Okay. A little bit more on that one piece right here. Go. All right. So now we have our basic card front. Now, of course, you could always stamp just any number of sentiments on the front of this. I've got another example sitting over here where I did the porthole a little smaller and just did one strip with one of the sentiments from that Magical Day set. So that's another option, but even as this layout, you could easily do a sentiment right there. But I kind of like the versatility of having it blank. All right, now we're just going to add it to our card base. I'm going to flip this lady over and grab my Stampin' Dimensionals and just plug a few of those on the back. I'm probably doing more than I need, but there we go. All right, and then grab my crumb cake card base. We're just going to peel and stick those down. There we go. Flip. Oh, upside down. There we go. Flip and give it a little bit of that crumb cake around the edge. Here we go. So there we have it. Our fun porthole mermaid card. Now I'd also do probably a white square or very vanilla in the center. The same dimensions as the front, so 5 1/4 by 4. Well, thanks guys for watching. I hope you liked this tutorial. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. For direct product links to my Stampin' Up! Store to support my business, they're all in the comments of this video below. Thanks guys! See you next time!